this video, we're going to cover setting up a cutter to use in the Midnight Print Calculator. The first thing we'll want to do is head over to Admin, Print, and Paper Cutter. Now you'll see in my demo site, I have a few cutters set up here by default. To add a new cutter, we could come over to Quick Links and click Add Cutter. For the sake of today's demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and go into my preset cutter. So this guillotine paper cutter, the fields that we want to pay attention to here are name and description. This is how you'll identify the cutter when you are selecting it in the print calculator. Throat height in inches. This is how we can determine how many sheets of paper can fit on the cutter. And then the next really important piece is the costing method. So cuts per hour or time per lift. So typically people are going to want to use cuts per hour. So what this is going to do is use the calculated cuts inside the Midnight Print Calculator and divide that by your cuts per hour field. And this way we can determine how many hours or what fraction of an hour it's going to take to cut that job. And then based on that, we can charge your hourly rate. So you can see here we have a setup cost and an hourly rate. This is how we're going to actually apply pricing to that cutting feature. If you wanted to use time per lift, then we would ignore how many cuts there are, and we would simply use the number of lifts calculation in the calculator. And then we would apply our time per lift metric to that and multiply that by our hourly rate. So there are two ways to cost for cutting inside of the Midnight Print Calculator. The minimum width and depth and max width and depth are optional, although very useful. And the standard service selection, if you actually select the standard service here, it will automatically add that service to the job if you selected this particular cutter. In order for a service to appear in this dropdown, it needs to be selected as a print additional service in the standard service setup. One more thing to note here. In order for the paper cutters to work inside of the Midnight Print Calculator, whatever paper you're using must have a caliper value entered into that inventory item. We can see that this inventory item does have a caliper in it. So if this piece of paper was selected in the print calculator and you selected a cutter, we would know then how many pieces of this paper could fit on that cutter at any given time.